The night was cold, very cold. Not the kind of cold that makes you reach for a jacket, but the kind of cold that goes inside your bones and stays there, the kind of cold that only people sleeping outside truly understand. The streets of the city were wet from hours of heavy rain. The streetlights reflected off the puddles on the ground, making everything look like a broken mirror. Most people were already inside their warm homes, eating dinner, watching television, laughing with their families, but not Raymond. Raymond was sitting under an old concrete bridge. His back was against the wall. His knees were pulled up to his chest. He had a torn plastic bag next to him. Inside that bag was everything he owned in this world. An old blanket, a half-eaten piece of bread, a photograph with cracked edges, and nothing else. Raymond was 51 years old, but he looked much older. His face had deep lines, his hands were rough and dark from years of living outside. His shoes had holes in them so big that his socks were completely wet. He had not eaten a proper meal in 2 days. This was his life now. He did not choose this life. No person wakes up one morning and says, "I want to sleep under a bridge." Life had simply broken him down, piece by piece, year by year, until there was almost nothing left. He closed his eyes for a moment and listened to the rain. Then he heard something, a soft sound, just a few feet away from him, like something had fallen from above. He opened his eyes slowly and looked to his left. There, sitting in a small puddle of rainwater, was a wallet, a thick, dark brown leather wallet. Raymond stared at it for a moment. He thought maybe his tired eyes were playing tricks on him. He blinked once, twice. It was still there. He slowly reached over and picked it up. It was heavy. He turned it over in his hands. The leather was expensive, smooth, and soft. This was not a cheap wallet. This belonged to someone with money, someone important. Raymond's heart was beating fast now. He opened it slowly, and then his breath stopped completely. Inside the wallet was cash, thick bundles of cash held together neatly with bands. He pulled one bundle out with shaking fingers and counted quietly under his breath. 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, he kept counting. His hands would not stop trembling. $50,000. Raymond sat completely still for a long moment. $50,000 was sitting in his hands. More money than he had ever seen in one place in his entire life. More money than he had earned in the last 5 years combined. With this money he could rent a room, buy clothes, eat real food, start again. With this money the nightmare of the last 3 years could simply end tonight. No one was around. He looked left, he looked right. The street was empty. The rain was still falling. There were no cameras under this bridge, no witnesses, no one watching. Not a single person in the world would ever know. He could just keep it. The thought sat in his mind like a heavy stone. He looked at the money again. Then he looked down at his wet socks showing through his broken shoes. He thought about the hunger in his stomach. He thought about how cold he was. He thought about what it would feel like to sleep in a real bed tonight. His fingers tightened around the wallet. And then he heard something else. Not a sound from outside, but a voice, from inside his own memory, quiet but very clear. It was his mother's voice. She had been gone for many years now, but in this moment under this bridge in the rain, she was right there with him. "Raymond," the voice said softly, "your character is who you are when no one is watching." He sat very still. He had heard those words 100 times growing up, but tonight, in this moment, they landed differently. They landed like something true, something that could not be argued with. Raymond took a slow, deep breath. He looked inside the wallet one more time and found a small white business card tucked behind the cash. He held it under the dim light of the distant street lamp and read it carefully. "Mr. Daniel Hargrove, CEO, Hargrove Industries." Raymond stared at that card for a long time. Then he closed the wallet, tucked it carefully inside his shirt to keep it dry, and made a decision that, though he did not know it yet, was about to change his entire life. There is a question that people never ask about a man sleeping on the street. They look at him, they walk past him. Some throw a coin. Some look away quickly. Some shake their heads. But almost nobody ever stops and asks the one question that actually matters. How did you get here? Because every person living on the street has a story. Not an excuse, a story, a real human story, full of choices and mistakes and bad luck and heartbreak. Just like yours, just like mine. And Raymond's story was one that would break even the hardest heart. 3 years ago, Raymond was not the man sitting under that bridge. 3 years ago, Raymond Ellis was a man with a routine. He woke up every morning at 6. He made himself a simple breakfast, 2 eggs, toast, and black coffee. He put on his work uniform, a blue shirt with his name stitched on the pocket, and he walked 14 minutes to the warehouse where he worked. He was a stock supervisor at a mid-sized logistics company. Not a glamorous job, not a high-paying job, but it was his job. He was good at it. He knew every shelf, every product code, every delivery schedule by heart. His manager called him the most reliable man on the floor. Raymond lived alone in a small rented apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building. The apartment was nothing special: 1 bedroom, a small kitchen, a window that looked out onto a parking lot. But it was clean, it was warm, and it was his. He had a small savings account, not much, but enough to feel safe. He had a few good friends, a neighbor named Carl who shared dinner with him on Sundays, a colleague named Pete who made him laugh every single day at work. Raymond did not have a big life, but it was a good life, a quiet, honest, dignified life. And then, in the space of just 11 months, everything fell apart. It started with his health. One morning Raymond woke up and could not move his right hand properly. He ignored it for a week, then 2 weeks. Then one day at the warehouse he dropped an entire box of electronics and could not explain why. His manager sent him to see a doctor. The diagnosis was a nerve condition in his arm and shoulder, not life-threatening but serious enough that heavy lifting, the core of his job, was now dangerous for him. The company was sympathetic for exactly 3 weeks. Then they let him go. Raymond told himself it was fine. He would find another job quickly. He was experienced, he was reliable, he was a hard worker. How long could it take? Took longer than he thought. Much longer. Month after month he applied for jobs, he sat in waiting rooms, he filled out forms, he smiled in interviews. But the moment employers saw his medical history and his age, 51 years old, the phone calls stopped coming. His savings began disappearing, first slowly, then very fast. 6 months after losing his job, Raymond could no longer pay his rent. And then came the betrayal, the one that hurt more than all the rest combined. Raymond had one close friend outside of work, a man named Steven. They had known each other for over 15 years. When Raymond's situation became desperate, he went to Steven. He explained everything honestly. He asked for a small loan, just enough to cover 2 months of rent while he kept looking for work. Steven said yes. He promised Raymond the money within 1 week. That week passed. Then another. Raymond called. Steven did not answer. He went to Steven's house. The house was empty. Steven had moved without saying a word. The money never came. Raymond stood outside that empty house for a long time. Not crying, not angry, just very, very quiet inside. Something broke in him that day. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a small but important part of a machine finally giving out. Within 3 months, Raymond was on the street. No apartment, no job, no close friends left, no family nearby. Just the city around him, cold and indifferent and enormous. He learned quickly how survival worked out here, where to find food, which shelters had space, which corners were safe at night, which people to trust and which ones to avoid. But through all of it, the hunger, the cold, the humiliation, the invisible feeling of walking through a city where no one sees you, Raymond never let go of one single thing: his mother's voice. Raymond, your character is who you are when no one is watching. He had heard those words his whole life. When he was a boy stealing mangoes from a neighbor's tree. When he was a teenager tempted to cheat on an exam. When he was a young man making hard choices at work. And now, on the worst night of the worst chapter of his life, those words were about to be tested one final time. Under a bridge, in the rain, with $50,000 in his hands. And not a single witness in sight. There are moments in life that do not announce themselves. They do not come with a warning. They do not come with a drum roll or a flashing light. They arrive quietly, disguised as ordinary moments, and then suddenly, without permission, they reach inside your chest and grab something. This was one of those moments. Raymond was still sitting under the bridge. The rain had not stopped. If anything, it was falling harder now. The sound of it hitting the concrete above his head was loud and constant, like the whole sky was trying to say something. He was holding the wallet in both hands. He had not moved for almost 2 full minutes. He opened it again, not because he had forgotten what was inside, but because some part of him still could not believe it was real. The cash was still there, neat, organized, and very real. He pulled the bundles out one by one and laid them carefully on top of his plastic bag. keeping them away from the wet ground. His hands moved slowly, carefully, like he was handling something fragile. He counted 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. He paused. He looked up at the dark street in front of him. A single car passed in the distance, its headlights cutting through the rain and then disappearing. The street went dark again. No one was there, no one was coming. He looked back down. 40,000, 45,000, 50,000, $50,000. Raymond sat back against the cold wall and just breathed. He stared at the money spread out in front of him on that plastic bag. In the dim light from the distant street lamp, those bundles of cash almost seemed to glow. It was the most beautiful and most dangerous thing he had ever seen in his life. And then his mind started talking. Not his conscience, not yet, just his mind, practical, logical, desperate. With this money you can rent a room tonight, it said, a real room with a real bed and a real door that locks. Raymond thought about the last time he had slept in a real bed. It was 14 months ago, in a shelter that smelled of mold and loud arguments. Even that felt like a luxury compared to the bridge. With this money you can buy shoes. His mind continued, shoes without holes, shoes that keep the water out. He looked down at his feet. His socks were completely soaked through. He could no longer feel two of his toes properly. He had been ignoring that for weeks now because there was nothing he could do about it. With this money you can eat, the voice said, quieter now, almost gentle, a real meal, hot food. Not leftovers from a bin. Not half a sandwich someone threw away. Real food, sit-down food. Food that tastes like dignity. That word hit him hard. Dignity. He had not felt dignified in a very long time. He picked up one bundle of the cash and held it in his hand. It was thick and solid and warm from being inside the wallet. He ran his thumb along the edge of the notes the way you sometimes flip the pages of a book. That soft, fluttering sound filled the space under the bridge for just 1 second. And in that 1 second, Raymond felt something he had almost forgotten. He felt powerful. Not rich, not greedy, just powerful, like a man who had options, like a man who had choices, like a man who existed. It was a feeling so unfamiliar that it almost frightened him. He set the bundle back down carefully. Then he reached into the wallet again. There were other things inside besides the cash. A black credit card with no name printed on the front. Just a long number and a small gold chip. A folded piece of paper with a handwritten list of numbers that meant nothing to Raymond. A small photograph, slightly bent at one corner. Raymond held the photograph up toward the streetlight. It showed a man, tall, well-dressed, somewhere in his mid-50s, standing next to a younger woman and 2 teenage children. They were all laughing at something outside the frame. The kind of laugh that looks completely natural, completely real. The kind of laugh that only happens when a family is genuinely happy. Raymond stared at that photograph for a long time. He did not know these people. He had never seen them before in his life. But something about that laughing family in that small bent photograph did something unexpected to him. It made the money feel different. Not like a gift anymore, not like an opportunity, but like something that belonged somewhere else, to someone else, to that laughing man, to those 2 teenage children. He put the photograph down gently. Then he found it, right at the back of the wallet, tucked neatly behind everything else. A small white business card, clean and crisp, as if it had just been printed. He held it close to his eyes and read it slowly. Mr. Daniel Hargrove, Chief Executive Officer, Hargrove Industries. Below the name was an address, a street address in the business district of the city. Raymond recognized the area. He had walked through it once, a long time ago, on the way to a job interview. He remembered tall glass buildings and men in expensive suits walking fast with coffee in their hands. That world felt like another planet from where he was sitting right now. He flipped the card over. On the back, written in blue ink by hand, were just 3 words. If found, please. The sentence was not finished. Someone had started writing a message on the back of this card and then stopped. Maybe they ran out of time. Maybe they thought no one would ever find it anyway. Maybe they had simply given up on the idea that a stranger would do the right thing. Raymond read those 3 unfinished words again. If found, please. Please what? Please return it. Please be honest. Please be the kind of person we all hope exists but rarely believe does. Raymond put the card down on top of the cash. He looked at everything spread out in front of him, the money, the credit card, the photograph of the laughing family, the unfinished sentence on the back of a business card. The rain kept falling. His stomach growled loudly in the silence. He closed his eyes. And for the 3rd time that night, without warning, without invitation. He heard his mother's voice, quiet, warm, certain. "Raymond, your character is who you are when no one is watching." He opened his eyes. He picked up the photograph first, then the card, then the bundles of cash. He placed everything back into the wallet carefully and methodically, as if he was packing something precious, as if every item deserved respect. He closed the wallet. He held it against his chest with both hands. And for the first time in 3 years, Raymond Ellis smiled. Not because he was happy, not because life had suddenly become easy, but because in the hardest moment of his hardest year, he had looked at who he was, and he had not looked away. There is something nobody tells you about doing the right thing. Nobody tells you that it is exhausting. Nobody tells you that honesty has a physical cost, that integrity can leave you with bleeding feet and an empty stomach, that doing the right thing sometimes means arriving at your destination looking like you have fought a war and lost. Nobody puts that part in the stories, but Raymond knew it now, completely, painfully, and without any doubt. He had been standing outside the Hargrove Industries building for 4 minutes, not because he was unsure. He had made his decision hours ago, back under that bridge in the rain. That decision was not changing. He was standing outside because he was looking at himself in the tall glass panels of the building's front entrance. Raymond could see his own reflection clearly for the first time in hours. What he saw made him stop. His jacket was torn at the shoulder. His face was pale and drawn with exhaustion. There was dried mud caked on his trousers. From the knee downward, his makeshift shoes, strips of cloth wrapped around the remains of what were once proper shoes, had come half loose on the final stretch of walking. His feet had been bleeding since the 3rd hour. He looked like a man who had been through something, because he had. He straightened his jacket with both hands. He ran his fingers through his wet hair. He stood as tall as his tired body would allow. Then he pushed open the glass door and walked in. The lobby of Hargrove Industries was everything Raymond was not. It was warm, it was clean, it was bright with the kind of soft, expensive lighting that makes everything look important. The floor was pale marble that reflected the ceiling above it. There were tall indoor plants in large black pots near the entrance. A long reception desk of dark wood stretched across the far wall. Behind it sat 2 young women in matching blazers, looking efficient and perfectly put together. Around the lobby, men and women in sharp suits moved with purpose, laptops under arms, coffees in hands, conversations happening in low professional voices. Everyone looked like they knew exactly where they were going and exactly why. Raymond walked to the reception desk. The woman behind the desk looked up. Her expression did not change, but her eyes moved quickly. From his face, to his jacket, to his wrapped feet, and back to his face, in the space of 1 second. "Can I help you?" she said, in the careful, neutral tone of someone who has been trained to be polite in complicated situations. "I need to speak with Mr. Daniel Hargrove," Raymond said. A pause. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Raymond said, "but I have something that belongs to him, something important." The woman glanced sideways at her colleague. Then she looked back at Raymond. "I am afraid Mr. Hargrove does not see anyone without a prior appointment. If you leave your name and contact details, I can pass a message." "Please," Raymond said quietly. He was not begging, his voice was calm and clear. "Just tell him someone found his wallet, that is all. Just tell him that one thing. If he still does not want to come down, I will leave." Another pause. The woman picked up her desk phone slowly. Raymond stepped back from the desk and waited. He stood near the center of the lobby. He did not sit down. There were chairs along the wall, clean, cushioned, comfortable chairs, but Raymond did not feel he had the right to sit in them. So he stood. Around him, the morning business of a successful company continued without interruption. Nobody looked at him directly, but he felt every sideways glance. Every quick look followed. By a quick look away, he was used to that feeling. He had been feeling it for 3 years. The invisible man in the visible room. He shifted the wallet slightly inside his jacket, making sure it was still there, still safe, still dry. 2 minutes passed. Then 3. Then the elevator at the far end of the lobby opened. Daniel Hargrove walked out. He was exactly as he appeared in that small photograph from the wallet, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark navy suit that fit perfectly. His gray hair was neat. His expression as he crossed the lobby was focused and unreadable. The face of a man who makes decisions quickly and does not waste time being uncertain. He was looking around the lobby as he walked. Then his eyes found Raymond, and he stopped. Not slowed down, stopped, completely, in the middle of his own lobby with people moving all around him. He looked at Raymond for a long moment, taking in the torn jacket, the exhausted face, the wrapped feet, the quiet, straight-backed dignity of a man who had clearly been through something significant to get here. Then his eyes moved to Raymond's hand, where the edge of a dark brown leather wallet was just visible inside the jacket. His wallet. Daniel walked forward again, more slowly this time. He covered the remaining distance between them and stopped 3 feet away. For a moment, the two men simply looked at each other. No words yet, just two human beings standing in the same space, from completely opposite ends of life, meeting in the middle of a marble lobby on a Tuesday morning. Raymond spoke first. He reached inside his jacket and carefully removed the wallet. He held it forward with both hands, steady and deliberate. "I believe this belongs to you, sir," he said. His voice did not shake. It did not rush. It was the voice of a man who had made his peace with his decision many miles ago. Daniel took the wallet. He opened it slowly. His eyes moved across the contents with the quiet efficiency of someone checking something they already know but need to confirm. The cash was there. Every single note, the credit card, the family photograph, and at the back, the flash drive, small, black, and absolutely critical. He closed the wallet. He looked up at Raymond. And something happened to Daniel Hargrove's face in that moment that nobody in that lobby had ever seen before. The CEO expression disappeared. Not gradually, not politely, but completely, like a mask that had simply dropped. What replaced it was something much simpler and much more powerful. It was the face of a man who has just been reminded of something he had forgotten, something important, something that no amount of money or success or carefully managed reputation had been able to teach him. He was looking at a man who had nothing, who had walked through the night on bleeding feet, who had held $50,000 in his hands with no witnesses, and had chosen honesty anyway. Daniel Hargrove, worth $300 million, holder of industry awards and government commendations, a man who had shaken hands with presidents, was humbled, completely, quietly, and permanently humbled. He looked at Raymond for a long moment. Then he asked the only question that mattered. Just 4 words, spoken quietly enough that only Raymond could hear. "What do you need?" There are moments in life that cannot be planned. Not by the richest man in the room, not by the smartest person in the building, not by anyone with a calendar, a strategy, or a 5-year plan. Some moments simply arrive. And when they do, they strip away everything. The titles, the suits, the corner offices, the important meetings, and leave behind only one question. Who are you, really? Daniel Hargrove was about to find out exactly who he was. He had been in his office on the 14th floor since 6:30 that morning. His desk was covered in reports. His phone had already rung 11 times before 9. His assistant had canceled 2 meetings and rescheduled 3 more. This was a normal Tuesday for Daniel Hargrove, CEO of Hargrove Industries, a logistics and supply company worth over $300 million. Daniel was 54 years old. He had built his company from a single rented warehouse and a second-hand delivery truck 22 years ago. He was not born rich. He had worked for every single thing he owned. That was something he was proud of. That pride lived quietly but firmly in the center of his chest. When his assistant knocked and entered with a strange look on her face, he looked up from his desk with mild irritation. "There is a man downstairs, sir," she said carefully. "He says he has something that belongs to you." Daniel frowned. "What kind of man?" His assistant paused, choosing her words. Security almost turned him away. He does not look well, sir. He looks like he has been walking all night." Daniel was already standing. The elevator ride down to the lobby felt longer than usual. Daniel did not know what he was expecting. Maybe a delivery driver, maybe a confused elderly man. He was not expecting what he saw when the elevator doors opened. Raymond was standing near the front desk. He was soaking wet from head to foot. His jacket was torn at one shoulder. His trousers were covered in mud from the knees down. His shoes, or what remained of them, were bound together with strips of torn cloth. Through the gaps, Daniel could see that Raymond's feet were bleeding. Raymond was standing completely straight. That was the first thing that truly hit Daniel. Not the torn clothes, not the bleeding feet, not the exhaustion written across every line of that weathered face, but the posture, the quiet, dignified, almost defiant straightness of a man who had decided something and was standing by it completely. In his hands, Raymond was holding a dark brown leather wallet. Daniel's wallet. Daniel walked across the lobby slowly, his eyes never leaving Raymond's face. The security guard stepped slightly forward out of habit. Daniel raised one hand and the guard stopped. He stopped 3 feet in front of Raymond. For a moment neither man spoke. Then Raymond held out the wallet with both hands, the way you offer something you have been trusted to carry. "I believe this belongs to you, sir," Raymond said. His voice was quiet but completely steady. Daniel took the wallet, he opened it, everything was there, every single note, every card, the photograph of his family, and most importantly, the flash drive that contained 18 months of confidential acquisition documents that, in the wrong hands, could have cost his company millions. He looked up from the wallet. He looked at this man standing in front of him, bleeding, hungry, and completely calm, and Daniel Hargrove, a man who had negotiated with banks, argued with lawyers, and sat across from government ministers without blinking, felt something shift inside his chest. He asked one question. Not where did you find it? Not how did you get here? Not do you want a reward? Just one question, spoken quietly. What do you need? Raymond blinked. He had prepared himself for many responses, a handshake, a thank you, maybe an envelope with some cash inside. He had not prepared himself for this question, for the gentleness of it, for the fact that it was asked at all. He was silent for a long moment. Around them the lobby continued its morning business, phones ringing, employees walking past with coffees and laptops. The ordinary machinery of a busy company moving forward as always. But right there in the middle of all that noise, 2 men stood completely still. Finally Raymond spoke. "I just want to feel useful again," he said. So quietly it was almost a whisper. 6 words. Just 6 words. But they landed in that lobby like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples outward in every direction. Daniel looked at him for a long moment. Then he did something that made his assistant freeze, that made the security guard blink twice, that nobody in that lobby expected. He sat down, right there on the floor of his own company lobby, in his $3,000 suit. Daniel Hargrove sat down on the cold marble floor and looked up at Raymond. "Then sit down," he said simply, "and tell me everything." Raymond sat, and for the next 2 hours, in the lobby of a $300 million company, a destitute man and a millionaire sat together on the floor and talked. Not CEO to homeless man, not rich to poor, not powerful to powerless. Just 2 human beings, one who had lost everything and walked 12 miles in the rain to do the right thing, and one who had everything and was only now beginning to understand what that actually meant. Daniel listened. He did not check his phone, he did not look at his watch, he did not nod politely while thinking about something else. He listened the way people only listen when something genuinely matters to them. Raymond told him everything, the job, the illness, the apartment, Stephen's betrayal, the bridge, the wallet, the $50,000 sitting in his hands in the rain with no witnesses. When Raymond finished, Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he said something Raymond would never forget for the rest of his life. "I built this company on one belief," Daniel said slowly, "that the right people, given one real chance, will always rise. You just showed me that belief is still worth having." He stood up, straightened his suit jacket, and looked at his assistant who was standing nearby with wide eyes. "Cancel my morning," he said quietly. "All of it." Then he turned back to Raymond. "Come with me."